Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. Today, we're going to talk about dojo etiquette and why it's so important to the dojo culture and the overall environment to the entire experience.
Yeah, and I think these dojo etiquettes are sometimes overlooked often,
Definitely
because
overlooked.
in
Yeah.
a dojo, a lot of times people just come in to work out and they don't really care they might overlook other things, but I think this really sets a dojo apart from, you know, just being
Yeah,
successful
from the
or
good
not
ones to
successful.
the great
Yeah,
ones. Right. And
yeah,
then it's not just about taking your shoes off and bowing and hygiene, right? That just almost goes without saying,
right,
right? But it goes far beyond that, right?
right.
Far beyond that. So we kind of wanted to go into that today.
That's right. So let's start with we're gonna kind of go divide the etiquettes from groups to groups and whatnot. So let's just start with the beginners and maybe the color belts, like mid-level judokas. So
Yeah. So, there's different ways to interact from, lower belts going to high belts going to lower
right,
belts, right? Because it's a natural hierarchy in the dojo place, right? Everyone is denoted. He has this color belt, that person has that color belt, and it's very clear,
right,
right? So the interactions going in one direction or the other direction, it sort of changes little by little. And I think
right.
it's very interesting, it's very nuanced. If you're a white belt, you kind of don't understand the culture, right? Something as simple as like, a lot of BJJ schools, lower belts are not allowed to ask higher belts to do rounds, to do
Right.
rolls, to do randori, right? So for a white belt to go up to a blue belt, like, hey, do you want to go roll? Like that's like kind of like something that's frowned upon. And I've heard this in a lot of other schools, not all BJJ schools, but I've heard this in many jiu-jitsu schools.
Right.
So I thought that was kind of interesting, right? And I think judo and every dojo kind of has their own set of social norms, I guess, the dojo norms. So,
Right.
first and foremost, if you're a beginner walking into the dojo, right, asking is really, really important,
Right.
right?
So the first person you'll probably encounter or meet as a white belt at a dojo is your sensei, your teacher. So
Potentially, right? Maybe the
yeah.
person there's a front desk person,
All right.
and yeah. And the first question that they ask is, the first words that come out of a beginner's mouth generally does indicate like what kind that person's going to be in the
Right.
dojo place, right? If a person comes and is like, "Hey man, I'm here for a free class, right? Where's my free gi?" and they come in and they don't ask anything about the sort of etiquette, then it's
Right.
like, okay, this guy's going to be a pain in the butt. You know what I mean? Or, on the contrary, you get someone coming in and say, "Hey, is it okay if I leave my shoes here? Should I bow onto the mat?" Right? All of a sudden, okay, this person's concerned about how they should be in this
Right.
environment, right?
It's more about, yeah, it's just like when you come in as a white belt, you have to assume that you don't know anything about the culture and then this kind of environment. So it's better to
Yeah.
ask.
Better to
And
ask. But,
then
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and then it's not about, yeah, like you said, coming in and try to get much out of it. This is about joining a community, so it's about giving to the community as much as you
Yeah.
take out of it. So on
Yeah.
that.
And this is a little bit, philosophical, but
Yeah.
right, like if you're talking about knowledge and what you know and what you don't know, and one of my favorite quotes of all time is you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Right? And there's two types of people that love what they know and love what they don't know. Right? So the person comes in and starts saying, "Hey, I did Kung Fu and this and that, and I have this experience, that experience," and they just start talking about what they already know as opposed to using that time to gather information.
Right.
You already know the type of person that they're going to be. Right?
And then yeah, they're not really there to learn judo. Almost like they're trying to like.
I mean,
You
they are
get the
there to
sense
learn
that
judo, but
yeah.
right, they're just by nature like, look what I know,
Right.
right. So that's a little bit right because every dojo has
Right.
a different culture.
So that's how when you first walk in, yeah, you want to be polite and then kind of ask questions and whatnot. So when you actually get into the practice, get your gi, get to the practice, and then interact with other higher belts, what are some
Yeah.
of the things that you need to be aware of? you think?
Well, I think being coachable is very, very important, and
Right.
likability and coachability is huge. You don't want to be the person coming in as a beginner that no one wants to teach,
Right.
right?
Right.
Teachability is really important. It's like, hey, you go like this and you go like that for this technique, and they're like, oh, I know. It's like, oh, you got to pull a little bit more. I know. It's like that I know guy. No one likes that guy.
Right. Right.
Guy or girl, right? No one
Yeah.
likes that person.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want to be the I know. It's like, yes, yeah, okay, let me try it like this, right? And then we're gonna talk a little bit about the other direction of a higher belt talking to a lower belt later on, right? But you also don't want to be the person giving like nonstop feedback and giving a dissertation on
Right.
everything, right? It's like you want the person you give one feedback, the person drills, right? And it's kind of a back and forth,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it goes both ways. It's bi-directional. But on the receiving side of it as a beginner, you want to be coachable, right? You want people to want to teach you, right? Because that's what you're there for, to learn,
Yeah.
right? No one cares about your background in, this or that.
Yeah, going a little bit into detail about that. You know how like nowadays, because of the proliferation of like YouTube video instructions and whatnot,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
white belts will come in and then have some ideas about certain techniques.
Yeah,
And then
they do.
sometimes, because techniques, every judoka has a different variation that suits himself or herself. So sometimes the advice higher belts give white belt or lower belts might be in almost like contradiction with what the lower belt and white belts see on YouTube. So
Yeah.
what do you think white belts and lower belts should do in that kind of situation?
I always think that, everything you learn, you should take with a grain of salt, right? Because all
Right.
the rules that you learn in the beginning, like you break some of those rules later on. And when you do break some of these rules, for instance, like you never cross your feet, you hear this all the time,
Right.
right? And yeah, you're not really supposed to cross your feet when you walk side to side, but whenever you get better, right, there's times when you can cross your feet, when you're in dominant position, when you're faking a turn throw,
Right.
right? Like you cross your legs all the time.
Yeah.
So, you learn these rules later on. The more you gain in experience and knowledge, you can break these things with purpose, right? So when you're watching YouTube videos and you hear something like this, or never step over on a whiz, or all these different isms, like you don't have the ability to sift through, right? Why, when, how, and all of a sudden, if you never cross your legs ever, right? If you never step over on a whizzer ever, right?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna limit yourself.
Right.
So, it's a lot of noise out there in like that YouTube world of like instructionals. And, sometimes like you could gain so much from watching it, but you have to actually come in and do it. Right. But what I will say is you don't want to be the person that says, hey, I saw this YouTube video. They explained it like this, and that person's a world champion. Who are you? That kind of a thing.
I know, yeah.
Right. Never
Yeah.
fares well. So I would definitely suggest not to do that.
Uh-huh.
Right. And yeah.
I mean, yeah, like you say, it's a lot of data points and styles and whatnot. So you kind of have to. Everything is, I guess, in a way, right in a specific context. You always talk about the context and whatnot.
Yeah, man. They say like a broken clock is right twice a day.
Right.
And I'm talking about an analog clock.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess digital clocks.
Digital
too,
clocks. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you know what move works? What move should be a staple? What move should be taken out? Right. Even if a technique works, it doesn't fit into your system. You're not a Georgian grip guy, but you do one technique from the Georgian grip.
Yeah.
Like, what use is that going to do for you?
Right.
Right. So it's something of that nature. And talking to your peers is very important, but you want to be as concise as possible during drill time, because drill time is for drilling. Nagakomi time is for nagakomi. Newaza time and doing roll time is for rolls, right?
Right.
So you want to be able to be, talking about some of these ideas and asking about some of these ideas in the most concise way. And it goes both ways. Concise is the key, because doing is the most important thing.
Right.
If you want to have like a talk about it, chat about it, you're sort of an interpersonal learner, right? Where you use language in that way to like really try to expand your knowledge base, then do it after class or before class. Make note of it, right? This person's doing Tile in a certain way, or doing a Delahiva in a certain way. It's like, make note of it, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to ask you about that later. Cool. Right? Because, you don't want to get in a long, drawn out conversation during that time. Right?
So if, like during the drilling time, like if a lower belt has a question about something, what do you think? You think you should just save, they should just save it till the end of the class? Or you think you can kind of ask a question here and there? What do you think
You got to
is the
know
right balance?
you got to know the right person to ask, obviously,
Right.
right? If so, there's a big skill gap between like a white belt and a green belt, and a green belt to a black belt, and a black belt to the person leading the class, right? Because there's all levels of black belts.
Right.
If you're a white belt, yellow belt, and then if you're asking a basic question about a basic technique, you don't need to go to the top person in the room to ask that question, right? And I understand, you want to get the answer from the best person in the room, but 90% of the time, they're going to kind of give you a generic answer if you're asking about the basics. So ask someone maybe 2 levels above you, right? And be very concise about it. If it's a time where people are chatting and you notice like, oh man, everyone's chatting, it's kind of a, back and forth, easy drill kind of a time, or even an open mat kind of a time, then sure, ask away. Right? But know who you're going to ask too. The people in the room that are going to give you a dissertation. They're going to keep you and talk to you about the history of one move for 20 things, and how they did it in a tournament, and how they escaped it, and how they're the best thing on this planet. Now all of a sudden you're in this long drawn out conversation with this person, and now it's like you get no reps in, right? You need to get your reps in. So yeah, that would be my tip for that.
And that also, you have to ask it in the right way, right? Like, I guess when you ask for, let's say you're practicing osotogari, you don't want to say like, oh, how can I make my osotogari better? That's so like such a big topic. So
yeah, it's a big one. It's a big it's very general.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it's not what you're doing too, right? It's what your uke is doing. It's what your uke is letting you do. You know? And the thing that I get a lot of the times is like, this doesn't feel normal. This doesn't feel natural. It's like, of course, this doesn't feel natural and normal. You've never done it before. Right? Think about trying to write, article or something, right? Like draw something with your non-dominant hand. That's going to be very unnatural because you're not used to this movement. Right. So kind of tough to do that. And then, something that I've heard before, like a white belt, like a very emotionally intelligent white belt, say to a higher belt is like, hey man, if something seems very off that I'm not doing right, that's compromising your safety or something, like let me know and I'll try to fix it. I heard that one time and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is like emotionally intelligent. He's smart. I want to teach him. Right. It's like, I want to talk to him. I want him to be in the room, as opposed to the guy that's like giving unsolicited advice and it's like, oh, you're doing it wrong. And every time you do it, it's like your pinky's not doing the right thing. Like, get that guy out of the room. I don't want him there. You know what I mean? Because he's toxic. No one wants to work with that person. And then you get stuck with him during drills and you're like, oh my God, I got to hear how he hit this move at the Liberty Bell tournament 4 years ago. And I've heard it before. And he's going to tell me my move is garbage. Yeah. You don't want to be that guy. Right. So, you have to be intelligently selective as well.
Yeah. I think that's a good... Yeah. Oh no, I was just saying that's a good way to ask. Like, it's just like, hey, if you find something that doesn't feel quite right, just let me know. Yeah, it's because then I think you the other side can like focus on certain specific things, and then and because the time that you're speaking to the person is so limited, right? Because warm-ups, you're not really talking, right? You're just going through the movements of like push-up, stretches, this, that, this. Break falls, okay, whatever, right? Forward rolls, back rolls, whatever. Okay, sensei teaches a technique, time for drills or time for techniques. It's limited, and at my dojo, it's like when we do a certain teaching thing, it's between 2 and 3 minutes, no matter what. I'll give you maybe 3 minutes or 4 minutes to drill it. We bring it back, bring it back. There's not too much downtime to be sitting there chatting away. Right. So you almost like have to be concise. So the time that you do speak to your opponent is very limited, and I try to limit it, right? You don't want to get into this long drawn out thing. And I think another thing is that you can't really describe all the little nuances with your words. It's better
it's very difficult. You have to do it, right? It's a physical thing.
Yeah. So it's better to do it, just get the big ideas and then do it and figure it out yourself rather than trying to ask the minute details. Right.
Yeah. And communication style is really important too when you're talking about this stuff. Because when you're constantly saying like, am I doing it right? Like it doesn't feel right. And immediately, like I said, probably 5 to 10 words, but you're already trying to communicate to the other person like, man, I really feel like I'm not good at this. Like I'm super insecure. Right. So like there is a lot of nonverbal sort of communication things that happen during times like this. Right. And then trying to be able to communicate to the other person, like when the person's slamming into you with a sotogari, right? It's like, how do you tell that person, like, dude, you're freaking hurting me right now. Like, what is the point of it, right? And then to be able to do that in a way, right? That's like completely without even judo or dojo, period. That's just straight up communication skills.
Right.
And some people have that, right? Some people are good at that. And then it's the job of the instructor to be able to not police it, right? But
foster that environment. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. And then if I see something, and even me, when I would try not to call that one person out, if I see something that I don't like, I will say something, but I'll address the entire class, and then I'll try to sort of make eye contact with the person who's, right.
Yeah. You've done that to me.
Yeah, Peter.
No, yeah, that's yeah. We'll talk about them more later too. How to foster the environment, the safe environment for everyone.
Yeah.
So now we talked about drilling and the etiquette there. Let's kind of move on to the fun part, the randori.
Yeah.
So what kind of etiquettes do you think the beginners should keep in mind during randori? Like you kind of mentioned this, in some schools they don't even allow beginners to ask for rounds.
Yeah, so I've heard this, like lower belts shouldn't ask higher belts, and higher belts can get, first dibs and then choose. I've heard that before, but it really depends on the school, right? You just don't know any better. So if you have a little bit of experience, you can sort of ask the person in there, right? Like, hey, how should I go upon getting rounds? And some schools, only allow the sensei, the teacher in the room, to allocate, like, hey, you go with this person, you go with that person, right? There's no way to really know. So just kind of like sit back, take in the vibe, and if you have a question, ask, but be very concise and direct, right?
Right.
And that's always sort of best practices in terms of asking. What I will say during randori, though, is like when you're actually doing randori, do not talk.
Right.
Right? Stop talking during randori,
Yeah.
And I think the only time you should speak up and the people should be chattering during randori, me versus you versus somebody else, right, is something that regards safety.
Yeah.
Watch your back over there, or, oh, shoot, somebody's about to land on you. Oh, let's go back inbounds, Don't do Tanya Toshi, please. Why did you kick me in the shin so hard? That's the only time you should be speaking in randori.
Right. No, like, oh, that was a good throw, or like, oh, you should have done this and that. Nothing.
No, because even, that stuff, it's a blurred line, right? And there's guys in the dojo all the time that it's like, they get slammed, and they're like, hey, man, good job with that throw. And immediately what that person's trying to say is, I gave you that throw, right? I never expected you to throw me, but you did throw me. So good job, buddy. And that kind of thing, gets taken the wrong way, obviously, right? Best not to say anything and be like, oh, shit, you got it. Good job, and bow and then go right back at it. Because that's what you're there to do, right? If you're doing a 3-minute roll, a 5-minute roll, the time is so freaking limited. You could spend the entire 90% of the time going out of bounds, stepping in. Hey, good job, buddy. Like, hey, try this instead. Doing judo, going down, miss and throw. Like, oh, that was a shido. Ha, ha, ha. And like, you're not really getting much out of it. And it distracts from what you're actually trying to do, right? Maybe the other person's like, I'm trying to figure this technique out. They need all the focus in the world to try to figure out the timing for a specific set thing. And, on the contrary of that, it's like sometimes I'm trying to work my tomonage. And I get this tunnel vision of like tomonage, and not really seeing the other things that are available to me, right? That happens to a lot of people. So it requires a lot of focus and attention to like trying to balance all these things. What is this person doing? Where are the gaps in his judo? And now this guy's like, ha ha, that Osoto was right there for you. And now it's like, you're getting annoyed, you're getting frustrated, you're getting taken out of what you're trying to do.
Right. That's a good point you bring up, because sometimes people are purposefully not looking for certain techniques because they're focusing on other things. Yeah.
You don't know that when you're working out with someone.
Right.
It's like, hey, Ochi, right here. Look, this thing right here. Ochi. It's like, I'm not going for Ochi. I'm not looking for Ochi. Like, stop. So it's like, and when there's a hierarchy too, and the person doing that to you is a little bit higher in rank than you, all of a sudden when you talk back, it's kind of like, okay. And the dojo norm is like, hey, don't talk back to your, senpai or whatever it is.
Right.
But it's like, senpai was kind of being a dick there. Right. So, it's very nuanced for sure.
Right.
And, I, have the rule of like, if it's not about safety, don't talk about it. Right. It has to be about safety. And don't ask questions during randori like, oh man, how did you do that taio? No, forget it. Make note of it and ask them after practice.
Right.
All right. That's a question for the bar afterwards. Like, hey, you hit me with that tayo. That was sick.
Yeah.
Right. Not during the actual Randori. You get 4 minutes to do a round. Why are you going to talk about it for a minute?
Yeah. That's a good segue into our next topic. I think now we can move on to the black belts, how their etiquettes. And then so we kind of started talking about how they should behave interacting with lower belts. So you mentioned unsolicited comments, how
unsolicited comments, yeah. If they want to know, they'll ask you.
Right.
And if they're kind of shy about it, you could ask them directly, like, hey, you have any questions?
Right.
Yes, no, maybe. Spit it out, buddy. Not in that way, but like yes, no, maybe. There we go. Right.
And
maybe they just want to drill. You don't know that until you ask them. Being in tune communicatively with the other person is huge.
Right.
Right. And anything you say from a position of power can be misconstrued in the wrong way.
Right.
There's an amplifying effect when you're wearing a black belt and then the other person's a lower belt because of the natural hierarchy I was talking about.
Yeah.
So something as simple as like, oh man, rolling your eyes when the guy goes for a drop sanagi.
Right.
Right. That may not mean much, green belt to green belt, but black belt to white belt.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, hey man, I'm trying my best. I've never done this before. Right. It took all the guts for me to come to this dojo, try to better myself. And now this guy that I really look up to, Peter Yu, rolled his eyes when I went for a drop sanagi.
I never do that, but yeah. No, so you're kind of suggesting that my default mode is actually just keep quiet whenever, like during practice, I don't give any comments really unless asked to.
Yeah.
So you think that's like the good strategy to go with?
I don't know. You mean like you could be the positive reinforcement type of person, right? And you always want to be a value add to the room, right? Because that's what you want for the person next to you and the next to you and the next to you. But you can't really kind of go against your personality type if you're not a chatty person.
Right.
You don't need to be forcefully chatty with anybody, right? But know that when you are a higher belt, you're naturally a leader in the room.
Right.
So the way you speak to people really matter.
Right.
It absolutely matter. And I talk about microaggressions, and as soon as people say microaggressions, people are like, oh my God, here we go. Like, what is this? Democratic, socialist, progressive, whatever. You could go down that route. And, sometimes, you need to have tough skin and all this stuff. But it matters when you're wearing a black belt and the other person is not. It really, really, really does. And simple comments like, hey, man, don't hurt me, okay, buddy? Like, that is so freaking condescending.
Right.
Right? Get that guy out of the room.
Right.
I'm serious. It's like black belt. I'm a black belt. I add value to the room. No, you don't. If you're being condescending and talking to people in a way where it makes them feel bad, right? And it's amplified by the fact that you are in a position of power, right? You don't belong in that room.
Right.
Because you're a dick.
Yeah.
Right?
It's really not about like, oh my God, like, that guy was so aggressive and punched me in the eye or anything. It's just like those little comments that really get amplified, and they really discourage people from coming back even and trying harder.
It does, man. And likability is really important, because of the nature of the sport, right? Nature of the judo, it's grappling. It's not like, all right, I make a mistake, the person dominates me in this game of tennis and I lost 40-0 or whatever it is,
right.
Or, oh, he beat me in basketball. It's like, oh, he beat me. He physically threw me on the floor, choked me, and then repeatedly pounded me, right? So like something like that, plus some of these comments that can be made and misconstrued in a way can really, eat away at someone's soul. You know what I mean?
Right. And
it's like that, the those comments, it's how about this one? Oh, I've only been doing judo for 6 months. Or like, oh, I haven't done judo in 2 years, and I already, and I threw you with tayo, ha ha ha. Like, I must be a genius at this stuff. I must be really talented because you've been training 4 days a week. I only come once a week. Ha ha ha. Like, get out of the room. Get that guy out of here. I don't want him here.
Right. That's really unnecessary, right? Yeah,
it's so unnecessary. Yeah. And then I will say, like, hey, you've heard me say it at the end of the class, like, please watch the way you speak to each other because it could be amplified, it can be toxic, right? And it's that one comment, and then the next time the other guy makes another comment, and before you know it, it's like, this guy, I don't like that guy. And then you're already doing a sport where, you're trying to fight out of mount, and you have the hand in the face or something like that, and then the elbow gets grinded on the side of your chin. And now all of a sudden, you have those interactions. that thing that's going on now with a little bit of the physical thing, and you throw in the hierarchy of the belt system, right? Then you got a disaster on your hands. Now all of a sudden, it's an unsafe room because these two guys are trying to hurt each other.
That's another good point, because these microaggressions are not physical in the beginning, but they could escalate very easily into something physical.
It manifests itself into physical things, right?
Yeah.
And that you really, really don't want that, and you really want to avoid it. It's toxic. It's like a cancer, you know? So, you know, you've heard me talk about this all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Right? How can you grapple with 40 people in the room with no one trying to hurt each other? Like, how does that even happen? You know, it's because of things like this. And, you know, I've asked people to leave the dojo many times. My father was notorious for that. You, get out. You know, he probably could have done it with a little bit more, you know,
tact,
niceness, probably tact. And, you know, there's ways to approach that, right? But yeah, that is very important.
If you're, as an instructor, head instructor, if you show that you have almost zero tolerance for that type of behavior, it kind of it sends in the opposite way a good signal to other people that you value their safety, their mental health, and what have you, and that really helps with the whole atmosphere.
Yeah. And you know, we're not perfect, right?
Yeah.
And there's margin of error, and everyone should get, you know, 1 strike, 2 strike, whatever. And I'm guilty of it too sometimes.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I'm guilty of it.
About the aggressive comments you made?
No, I never do that. But like, if I put down someone inadvertently. Because I'm very I can't really show. I always show what I'm thinking and feeling, right? And so I can't really hide it. So sometimes someone does something, you know, egregious or something like that. It was like an abomination. Someone goes for a crazy flying armbar and it's just dangerous. But it's so bad, and he like hurt himself, and it's like, oh my god, Jesus, you know? And it's like I can't resist that kind of reaction because it's so I just can't like.
Right. It's a big thing.
Because I'm thinking it, I'm feeling it. It's gonna show like in my physical language.
Right.
Berate him and say like, oh, that was garbage. I would never do that. But like, just like my body reaction, you know, body language gives it away. So we're all responsible. You know, we're all sometimes guilty of this.
We have to stay vigilant, like everyone. Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of black belts, you don't want to be the armchair quarterback from the sidelines. Right. And it's the same thing. It's like, go for Tayo. And, you know, what you're actually doing is like posturing and not virtue signaling, but signaling to the world like, hey, I know something that you guys don't know. Listen to me. Like, I'm so insightful when it comes to this movement. Like, listen to me. Like, you know, we don't need that either.
Yeah.
You're adding to the noise, you know?
And that's really, even when I'm not the recipient of those comments, say I'm like going with another beginner and then someone else is on the sideline giving comments to that lower belt, like it's like it makes me uncomfortable too. Like I know that the lower belt is trying his or her best. Because I am going with her or him or her right now, but it's I don't know. It just doesn't even sit well with me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it's different from the head coach in the room, right? But it's the equivalent of like when I go coaching at a tournament. If a kid is fighting and if I'm sitting in the coach's chair, there should be one voice that's giving technical advice.
Right.
Everyone else who's screaming and putting their voice out there should be just reinforcement, positive energy, go for it, you're doing great, just like words of encouragement, right? Because if I'm saying put your left hand on first, and this person's like cut that hand, and another person's saying go for drop Sanagi, right? And I'm kind of like, he doesn't even do drop Sanagi, you know, like stop confusing him. Like, should I go for drop Sanagi? Should I not? Like, you know,
right?
You want to kind of avoid that, right? So you know. And sometimes, like, I'm guilty of this too. Like, Luca's going with George, and I'm coaching Luca on the side. And, you know, sometimes I'm coaching George. And, you know, sometimes, like, I can't help myself too. But that's my job, right? It's my job to coach and teach and make them better.
You've made, like, prior arrangement with them. Like, they wanted you to comment on their... Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong. And a lot of the times, you can't really influence a person what they're doing during their randori anyway, right? If they're making a mistake constantly or an error, right, it's not going to change on the fly because I said something.
Right.
You know? You use your leg and step to your left by 2 inches because it's a little too far. It's like they're not going to listen to that and do it, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff gets done during drills, right?
Right.
Fixing during drill. Did you stepping too far close or too far out? Like, we need to fix this. We got to drill this, okay? Or you're attacking from when you're losing in position. If you go for Osoto when the person's dominant, they're going to counter you, right? It's the easiest technique to counter if you're in losing position. Don't do it, right?
I wonder.
What do I say? Don't go for Osoto. It's like you have like 9 other guys like, go for Ouchi instead. Fake Osoto and go for Sasai. It's like, guys, stop.
Yeah, you have to be mindful that the person has his or her own agenda to practice. Like, we gotta be mindful of that.
Speaking of coaching, it's like coaching the other person while you're doing randori with them.
Oh man, yeah.
Right? It's like, dude, you're doing good. Dude, go for Soto. go for it. Ah, good job.
I think that's
like
even worse. Yeah.
That's even worse, man.
Yeah.
It's like I remember being the recipient of that as a kid, and it's like, it's like, man, shut up.
Yeah.
It's like, you're just afraid that I'm gonna slam you.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? If you're going with someone that you shouldn't lose to, and they're about to throw you in front of everybody, that's the best defense mechanism almost, right? To just like pretend to coach them.
I know, and it's
to establish that, right? I'm better than you,
And then a little pat on the back.
Yep, you got me, buddy. I gave it to you though. It's because of my coaching that you're getting better.
It completely just outstrips all the efforts the other person has put in. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just be honest with yourself and be honest in the dojo. Be authentic, right? You got slammed because the guy's getting better.
Yeah.
That's okay. Right? I mean, I get it too, though. I don't want to get thrown when I'm wearing my red and white belt, you know?
I mean, it's so true. And now I think about it, I don't do it to other people, these unsolicited comments, but I do it to my brother.
Oh, big time. You're so bad with David.
I know. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I thought he would like that.
You know what it is with you and David? You guys have a special relationship. Obviously, you guys are brothers, right?
Yeah.
Like, David's like trying and working out, and all you hear is just you just screaming at him in Korean, and everyone's looking at each other like, Jesus Christ.
I know. Maybe maybe I should stop doing that now. I mean, we're not in the same city anymore, but but I don't do it when I go with him. I only do it on the side. But
You've done it with him too.
You think? Okay, you keep that.
And then one time I saw you coaching him as you're doing randori with him, and then you went for kochi and you rolled his ankle.
Oh yeah, I know.
I was like watching. I was like, man, if I was David, I'd freaking quit.
Yeah.
Good for him for sticking it out, man.
I know. He's
a great guy.
I mean, it's coming. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of some people might think that. I mean, myself too. I thought I was doing it out of love. Right? Like I want him to.
You are doing it out of love.
Yeah,
you are doing it out of love.
But the intention sometimes doesn't fully justify the outcome. So you gotta be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. You have a special place at the dojo too, so like you get away with a lot more, right? But when people see that, and there's a French guy in the room, and there's another French guy going with somebody else, then you get the French guy coaching in French, and then sometimes that happens with the Russian dudes in the room, right? And now all of a sudden you sort of have this division of like the Russian guys are sticking together, and we joke around about like Korean top team because we had like 6 Koreans in the room at once, right? We joke about that stuff, but. That stuff is real.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now, the kid that's not Korean is like, I'm not Korean. They're all coaching each other in Korean. I really don't want to go with a Korean guy in the dojo because the entire Korean top team is going to be, yelling at him to root against me. And so that it does really sort of cascade into a whole, right?
Yeah.
And with you, it's a little bit different, but with a lot of other people. And I that's probably an etiquette violation on my part. I play favorites sometimes,
Yeah. Well,
I know this.
I say this though, you do sometimes. Like, I mean, we're like best friends, so you always like give me a more pass than other people.
Yeah.
But I have to say, you have pulled me aside and say like, oh, Peter, you gotta go, you gotta go easy on this.
One of the worst violators.
I know, I was, yeah. It's just because that's the other thing. It's not about the etiquette during Randori. It's not just about those unsolicited comments. It's about the intensity you put in. And
here's a Peter violation. When we have a guest, Peter tries to hurt him.
I know. I don't try to. I always try to throw the person. But
it's just the worst because it's like, all right, Peter, you're not like a massive dude, right?
No. Yeah.
So your stats are like mid to lightweight. You know, you fought 66 at the last nationals that you took 7th in or whatever. It was 66, right?
66. Yeah.
All right, so that's 150 pounds ish.
Yeah.
Right. So you're a 150-pound guy, friendly. You know, wear your glasses, right? And then a big, strong dude comes in. The last person he wants to take a beating from is you, right? And not only does Peter give him a beating, he hurts him.
Oh, not intentionally, but that's the thing. It's not about the intention sometimes, you know. Yeah. I heard this saying where, you know, we judge ourselves by intention, but we judge others by their actions. So it really spoke to me, and because I tend to, you know, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to think that I've done people wrong. So, but you got to be mindful. Yeah. And then I learned a lot from those talks. I mean, it wasn't, I props to you, you know, bringing that up, you know, but I think that's what it takes for the head instructor to foster this kind of environment. You know, you got to talk to people about those.
So it's a double-edged sword,
yeah.
Right? When a guest comes in and then he starts immediately trying to thrash your beginners or intermediate guys, you have to kind of get on it right away.
Right.
And if they're already coming in with a brown or a black belt, they're pretty good, right? Most of the time. So then you want to give them, you know, someone whose skill level is pretty high, but someone that's not going to hurt them, because then if they get slammed and, you know, beaten around, they're not going to come back, right? And we want them to come back. If they're a nice value add to the room, and they're good people, we want them there, 100%, right? So it's kind of a tricky thing, and you know what I always say: throw them once really hard in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
and then just coast the rest of the round.
Yeah. I think that's a good strategy. You know, that's
a good strategy because then it's like next one, you know, you could like, okay, you know, he caught me once, right? Granted that there is that skill gap, and sometimes it's like a free for all where it's like, oh man, this guy came in, right? We've had guys like that coming in. You know, I got off the plane from Georgia. Now I came from the airport straight. I was like, "Where are you staying?" He's like, "I don't know, but I'm here for judo."
And with all the crazy cauliflower ears and whatnot.
I had this guy like, "Look, this is me at the championships in my country," and then show me the thing. And he has like the medal, and he's like big and strong, and I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." You know?
That's straight to you, man. I can't. I'm no enforcer for me then.
No, there's a system for guys like that. There's a system. First, you look him up on Judo Inside. Let's see what his record is. Right. And then you immediately know sort of like where they are on that world ranking scale.
Right.
And I could always take solace in the fact that if you're like a top 10 guy in the world, you're not, you know, flying around going to dojos, local dojos, right? They're like on the circuit competing now.
Right.
So yeah, and then, you know, you look at the weight class, it's like, oh, I see 73 kilos, 160-pound division, but he looks pretty heavy right now. He's probably not that good shape, or he hasn't really been training, right? He has wins against this guy, losses there. Okay, who should I put him with? All right, you know, Peter, get in there. Right?
I try to tire him out, and then you can step in later, you know.
Not even tiring him out. I'm just watching like, okay, righty, lefty. Like, okay, he's
analyzing.
What moves does he have to the left? Okay, how's his gripping? How's his newaza? It's like, ooh, his newaza not that good. All right, guys, we're gonna do 7 rounds of newaza.
Nice, yeah.
And then it's like, all right, who in the room is the best at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? All right, that guy's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's a green belt in judo, but we'll get him to go with him. We'll squeeze him.
Right.
And then we'll demoralize him first with the choking and the arm bar. Right? They won't get hurt. Right? And then we'll do standing, and then we'll get a heavyweight to come in.
Right.
He's a little bit tired. And then sometimes, you know, they're like, Sensei, I want to go with you.
Yeah.
Right? That happens a lot.
Yeah.
They call me out. Right? That's an etiquette no to call me out.
Right.
The old man standing on the side that hasn't even warmed up yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right?
That's funny.
But by then I have enough. I have enough.
You have all the information, yeah.
And I could survive with anybody for 3 minutes.
That's right. So we talked about, the black belts, the interaction with lower belts, and then even like microaggressions, forming cliques, like that. So you don't want you black belts has a lot of responsibility to help foster this safe environment. So now that we start talking about visitors, we pointed one thing out, like asking the head instructor to go with you, whatever. So what do you think visitors to a dojo should be mindful of when they come in, etiquette wise?
I always kind of find it's a little rude when the visitor calls me out in front of everyone, right? Sensei, you want to go? Or, not in that way, but like, Sensei, Randori. And it's like, man, you saw me not warming up this whole time. Like, I'm freaking cold. You're like 8 rounds deep or whatever. You're warm. You're ready to go. Like, that's kind of rude,
right?
But most 9 times out of 10, I will go. I'll do it, right? But like things like that, calling out the head instructor, calling people out, right? All that stuff. And, being polite is important, because if you're coming in there trying to, beat everybody, you already sort of there kind of for selfish intentions, right? As opposed to like the visitor that comes in, and it's like, I want to find a new home to train and get better, right? How do I fit in here? What is the culture like? Like it's a different kind of a mindset,
right?
So you recently visited a dojo out there in Detroit.
Oh yeah, right? I did. Yeah, Oakland University.
I hope you were polite.
I was. I didn't make any unsolicited comments. I was very respectful.
Peter walks in. He's like, "I'm here, guys."
I know. I won't. It was a great club. I had a lot of fun. I'm hoping to go more often. Great group of people, and
nice. Yeah.
It's I always, my default mode as a visitor is I just keep quiet. I don't really. I'm usually a very chatty guy.
Yeah.
But when I visit a dojo, I don't really speak unless I'm spoken to. Yeah, because it's just because I don't know. I have to see what they're like, and
you do. Yeah. You do. We get a lot of visitors from overseas a lot of the times too, like transient. Like, I'm here for vacation. I brought my gi. Right, I teach judo in France. I brought my gi. I'm here on vacation with my girlfriend for 2 weeks. Like, just want to get a workout in. Right. Can I borrow a gi? Right. Like, there's guys like that all the time. Obviously right now it's a little bit different because of the pandemic. We're not really allowing that.
Right.
But during, regular times that we got guys all over the world, all the time. Every week we have like 2 or 3 different people from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, here's another one, right? Going in and always asking what the rates are and the fees are. Don't expect free judo, right?
Right.
Especially like in a city like New York, when we have the mat is already full. Right. There's paying members, right? To come in and expect, like, I don't pay for judo. It's like, okay, that's too bad because everyone else is here paying. If you're coming in here and doing 10 rounds, that's 10 rounds that my students aren't going to get. That's not fair to my guys, And, the mat fee of $20, $30, whatever, that's not going to make or break anybody. Seriously. Right. If that's going to make or break you, then, you have other issues going on.
Right.
It's just like the principle of the fact that, hey, I'm here. I want to contribute. Right. It's like, I didn't pay for judo in my country because I'm about. Okay. Did you not pay $6 for a Starbucks that you're holding in your hand right there? Did you not go to Soul Cycle this morning and pay $47 for a spin class? But you can't pay $20 for judo for a mat fee just to support our business. Like, you know what? Get the hell out.
Yeah.
So that's like the etiquette. I went to Jason Morris's judo club back in the day, and I was like, Jason, I'm here. What are your rates? And he was like, don't worry about it. Like, no, seriously, I want to pay. I want to pay whatever the month is. I'm only here for a week, but I want to pay the full month just like a thing to show, right? I just want to pay it. And then he was like, don't worry about it. But then I gave it to Terry or something, like the lady who was running it, his wife, right? Terry Takamori, and I was like, yeah, here it is, and I remember that, right? And I was like, that's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? I went to Jimmy Pedro's dojo, and stayed there for a year. I paid monthly fees. I did. I was like, what is it? I'm paying it. I gave it to him in one shot. I gave him 6 months in one shot, right? Because I don't want to, it's awkward as it is, right? to discuss payment, discuss
Right.
money. And a lot of the times there is no admin person at the front desk.
Uh,
If it's a small dojo, it's you and the sensei, and their lifestyle depends on it.
Right.
Just do the right thing. $20 if it's going to make or break you. You know, what do you want? Like a red carpet invitation of like, oh man, thank you so much for blessing our dojo with your presence. Like, you're a black belt. I've never seen a black belt before. Like, it's free. Like, you know what? We'll pay you money to be here. It's like, get out of here with that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like a dojo etiquette thing that, you know, I live this, right? I've always, you know, once somebody comment below like, hey, Shintaro came to my dojo and never paid.
all the skeletons come out. No, I think that's good because it's you like you say, it's awkward as it is, and some teachers, you know, they think they need to be generous to the guest. I mean, that's very nice of them, but you know, you have to be mindful that, you know, it's work for them, and then they need to be compensated.
Culturally, different places have judo that's embedded, government subsidized, or right. Oh, black belts don't pay. Different places have different rules. Right.
Right.
You go to Manhattan, you're paying Manhattan rent. Different story. Right. Oh, sensei teaches judo at YMCA. He works a 9 to 5 as a whatever it is, and now he comes in and teaches judo from 6 to 7. He loves it. It's his passion. He doesn't care about money at all. Right. He doesn't even. The dojo's bleeding, but it doesn't really matter. Right? We're just happy that you're here. Come train with us. That's fine, right? But still ask. It's like, hey, what's the mat fee? Can I contribute?
Right.
Right? You're paying $7 for a latte. You know?
You can pay the mat fee. Yeah.
If you can't pay the mat fee, you know, maybe you should be, you know, I shouldn't say something. So it's like, you know, $20, $30 should not make or break you, you know?
Right.
And just asking is like, and a lot of the times, man, you know me, right?
Yeah.
I rarely ever take, guy comes in, very nice. Now watch, everyone going to do this. It's like, person comes in and they're a guest, right? Hey, what's going on? What's your mat fee? You know, what is it like? Forget it. Just go out there. Just sign this waiver though.
Yeah.
Okay. Just in case you break a nail.
Yeah.
You know, right? Go out there, go do your thing. And sensei, no, I really want to. It's like, nah, really don't worry about it, man.
Yeah.
Right. And I do it all the time. It's like, I would say like good 75% of the time, kind of like, don't worry about it. Especially if they're only here for vacation, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, like I'm okay with it.
And also especially if they're polite and then they're value add
They're
to
polite. Yeah, they're value add. You know, it's like, right, you've had tons of people coming through that you've gained a lot from.
Yeah, it's
different
always
styles
cool.
of judo.
Yeah.
Right, I want them there. I like them. You know, I like guests. Right? 9 times out of 10.
Right.
If they're polite.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you want to be that person that's going to be every time I'm in New York, you know, Shintaro welcomes me with open arms. Right. Why? Because they're polite, they're kind, they're nice, they're value add. They're not doing armchair quarterback stuff. They don't microaggressively say condescending comments. They always offer to pay. That's what you want, offering to pay. It's like when you go on a first date, right?
It's the
When
etiquette.
your counterpart offers to pay half, it's like, oh, shoot. It's like, okay, I was going to pay for the whole thing anyway. Like, I'm going to pay for it. Don't worry about it. You know, not like male, woman, whatever it is, but just the fact that you're offering is just kind of a nice gesture, right? That says a lot about a person.
You can't, you shouldn't try to expect things from others in that way. Like, oh, you're not, like it's the sense of entitlement is also another etiquette thing.
Yes, the sense of entitlement. Yeah, it's like, I'm a black belt. So what?
Yeah.
I've seen so many black belts. What do you want me to do?
Right.
Roll out the red carpet. Like, everybody, come here. Let's hear what he has to say because he's a black belt, right?
That's right. So, so that,
etiquette.
And I think I also want to, so we have all those judo visitors, but we also have visitors from other arts. We kind of touch upon it in the beginning, but especially like we've had a lot of visitors from BJJ and other like Krav Maga and all that. So what do you think, what kind of things do you think they should be mindful of coming into judo?
You know, so a lot of schools don't allow crazy colored gis, and my dad was like that too, right? If you came into the dojo with a black gi, he'd be like, get out. What is that thing? That's an abomination, right? But it's a different time. You know, I'm a little bit more understanding about this kind of stuff. If you're wearing branding from other schools and things like this, right? A lot of the times, if there's a polite person coming in with the proper etiquette is to say, hey, listen, I did judo at, you know, X, Y, and Z dojo. Like, I have the gi and it's embroidered into my chest. Like, I have no other gi. Like, if you want I'll buy a new gi or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, God bless you if you are that emotionally intelligent to ask that.
Right, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't mind. Go ahead, just train. But just the fact that they would ask and just communicate that to me, it goes a really long way.
Right.
But if you have a blank gi versus a gi with full branding, like you're NASCAR training, NASCAR, right? Like, then choose the more subtle gi, right? That's sort of the thing. I don't come in with a rainbow gi.
Yeah, that's more. That's a safer bet,
Yeah, it's just a safer bet. Maybe you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But that's just and then when you're coming in, it's like, oh, I trained this for that year's that for this year, and yeah, I'm curious about what where you're coming from with your training background, but you don't need to tell everybody in the dojo. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. You want to know what I used to do a lot of the times? My favorite thing, it's like, hey, we have a guest here, so-and-so. Can you come on up? Can you tell us your name and 3 things about you? Do you remember that?
Yeah. I like that. It's
love that, man. It's so simple and concise.
And
right.
And then it's just like it's a good way to break the ice, but it's not long or long-winded, anything like that.
Some people get long-winded, man. Right? So that's another etiquette thing that like if they're going to be sort of compliant in the culture or not. Say, hey, can you tell everyone your name and 3 things about yourself? My name is Joe. Born in 1983. My father was a judoka. My mother was a judoka. I'm a judoka. I fought in the 1993 Junior Nationals. Took a first. My favorite move is Tai Toshi. It's like, bro, you already told us like 18 things about yourself.
Yeah,
that's when somebody just starts freaking doing
clapping, and then it's like, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Great job. That's 1, 2, 3.
Maybe you gotta have that system in the Academy Awards. They start playing music when they start going.
We do it.
Yeah,
full blown do it. Yeah, so that's definitely when you're a visitor, right? Introducing yourself and being concise about your introduction. Hey, I'm Peter, right? I trained in New York. I'm here for now for my PhD. Done.
Yeah.
Oh, you're an interesting guy. If they want to know more, they'll be like, "What are you studying?"
So that actually happened with this dojo. I kept it very short. I just moved from New York. Used to train with Shintaro because they all knew you. So I used to train with Shintaro. Thanks for having me. And they're like, oh, tell me more. And then I just went in a little bit more. So I remember that from that. I remember that. So it's
that etiquette stuff goes a long way, man. And I hope you offered to pay the mat fee.
Well, So I was talking, so I have to be honest with this. I was talking to them and then like, hey, can I come in? And then the teacher was very gracious. Was very generous, I should say.
Gracious. Wow.
Not gracious.
Oh, yeah.
Wrong,
man.
Wrong
Roll out the red carpet for Peter.
No. I meant to say I was gracious, that he was very being generous, that if I help teach, it's gonna be, that's my mat fee in a way. So I help teach. I showed some moves. Actually, the combination like the koshigari and serenage and whatnot. So it worked out that way. But that was a mistake. I should have asked offer first. Yeah. But I missed the chance because he offered first.
Always offer, always offer. It's like it's $20. It's like okay. $20 not gonna break you.
No, exactly. And then it's good.
Your wife's a doctor.
Oh my god. Exactly. So it's a good not assuming and not expecting things from others, and always offering and whatnot, and that's good. That's
one more thing about the etiquette is being too cliquey, right? You don't want to be too cliquey,
right?
And it's
when guests come,
for
especially,
humans. Guests come, everybody, and it's proper etiquette, right? I mean, you don't want to be, that guy, but it's tough to say with that because human nature to be a little bit cliquey.
Yeah, you want to stick to the people you like, Yeah,
I'm guilty of it too, right? It's like I'm standing at the corner of the dojo and I have 3 or 4 of my, more favorite higher belt guys that I kind of talk to a little bit more than the other
Yeah.
people. And, I'm sure from an outside perspective, I'm being kind of cliquey. And that's not very etiquette of me, good dojo etiquette. Right. And
I think it's so
something
that's
I gotta
why.
work on too.
Yeah, I mean you're not bad with it or anything like that. You're always inclusive, but I
That's
think
because you're on the in.
oh, so I think that's
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. Like the people who are in have more responsibility to reach out, I guess.
That's true.
And,
That's true.
And then black belts, especially, like you said, I mean, they because of the power dynamics, they have more
Having
responsibility.
An inclusive culture
Yeah.
is very important, right? Senseis can't get too drunk with their students. I don't do that anymore. Right? You just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, of course, different times, right?
Right.
Of like how old the sensei is matter.
Yeah.
Right? Who I'm tapped in. And, like there was a time like me, we lived in the same block.
Yeah.
Right? My cousin lived on the same block. Right? Everyone was in, late 20s at the time. Everyone young professional. I've known Adam for 15 years.
Right.
Adam Clapper, right? Another one, a great one. I've known him for 15 years. We went to college together. It's like, all right, that crew, right? There's
it's
like easy to grab drinks afterwards. Right? And I didn't want to go when the beginners are being invited.
Because you gotta draw the line. That's a little bit inappropriate. Yeah. You gotta draw the line.
So it's like, there's been times when you were like, oh, that guy seems cool. let's invite him. And I'm kind of like,
yeah.
I don't know if I want to friggin' throw down beers with some dude that it's like, hey man, weren't you just talking about like not saying mean things and stuff, and now you're kind of ranting about something that's completely unrelated to judo, that's opposite of my political views, and you're very abrasive right now. You're very aggressive the way you're talking about this idea, right? And then it escalates, and now all of a sudden we're at the dojo, and I'm like, he's got to listen to me now.
Exactly.
Right in this setting, so
yeah, that's a fine line, and it
is a fine line
because you don't want to be seen like you're like trying to create cliques or anything like that. But it's
easy to do that too.
Yeah.
We're human. We're human, and yeah, I gotta watch out for that. But now, I have a kid and everything. I don't really. And then now that you moved, I'm already sort of. It's a different time now too, right? I'm getting older, right? I'm not gonna hang out with 24, 25-year-old judo guys and go throwing down drinks and going to bar. I mean, not that you can even go
to bars right now, yeah.
Anyway, but some things to watch out for. Another, couple of notes on dojo etiquette, right? Sensei to student is another one.
Right? It's a lot of different power dynamics and whatnot. Yeah, so you do
to
watch
There's
out for.
definitely a power dynamic there for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, I think this was a very important topic to talk about. And I think I'm glad that we had spent some time doing so. So to conclude, do you have anything else to mention? No.
Yeah, I mean, we skipped over hygiene and bowing and no shoes and stuff. That goes without saying, right? That's like you walk in, no one's wearing shoes. You better not be wearing shoes.
Right.
I've seen that before. Like, oh, look at that end of the mat. That looks really cool over there. Guy walks on his shoes like, hey, man, don't you not see like no one's wearing their shoes on the mat?
Right.
Guy, worked out on Tuesday, kept his, dirty gi in the bag, opened it up, like dusting it off, putting it back. I was like, dude, you can't be doing that. Does you not see that everyone else has a clean gi?
Right.
That goes without saying. But sometimes, you have your blind spots, right? You have your mind on the world and the things going on in your life. It's easy to oversee that. But yeah, that's those things without saying. Wash your gi, right? Be as clean as possible because it is a contact sport. And really, watch the body language and the communication skills, because that stuff can really, really determine the success of a dojo.
Yeah.
Right? And the success of you.
Yeah.
If you're coachable, if you're likable, people will help you.
And you'll get better faster. Yeah.
Yep. And then this is the best indicator for this. Okay, guys, grab a partner for rounds. Oh, man, no one. Do you want to go? No? Oh, you already have someone? Do you want to work out? Oh, all right. I guess I'll just sit this one out. It's like no one, everyone, what? Like you're the problem then.
Right.
There's something you're doing that people don't want to. You want to be a Eugene.
Oh yeah. Everyone's go with Eugene.
You can't get around with him. You have to like schedule around him in advance, like 3 months out. It's like, hey man, April 13th, second round. Are you available? And he's like, yes, I'm available. It's like, I'm booking that. It's going to my calendar. I'm sending you a Google invite.
I know.
Right?
He should be on the resi or something. You can't get around with him. Yeah, you gotta make a reservation.
He walks into the dojo. It's like he's doing uchikomi. By the time he's stretching, he's already approached by like 7 people.
Mm-hmm.
By the time he's like stretching, he's like, hey, do you want to drill with me? And he's like, oh man, I'm going to stretch 5 more minutes, but I already have like 9 people. There's a waiting list. I'm so sorry. Right? That's what you want to be like. You want to be like Yuji, and because he'll never have a shortage of partners, he'll always get better.
Just he gets to go with different types of, judo, and then it makes him better too, so.
Yeah. You're in full control of your destiny if you're like that, because it's like, my back hurts today. I don't feel that strong today. Let me go with smaller, lighter people. And they're going to want to go with you.
Right.
So give yourself that check, right? If you're the guy standing on the side like, hey, anybody? Like, you have to take a look at yourself and be honest. Like, man, maybe I'm not. I got to really listen to this podcast and work on my dojo etiquette.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was a good concluding remark. And thanks for listening, guys, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.